Haven 7, nestled in the azure skies of a distant star system, was a testament to human resilience. Built on a once barren planet, the colony flourished with glistening towers, vibrant markets, and the hum of life interwoven with advanced technology. Commander Elias Drake, a veteran of countless battles, watched from the observation deck of the colony's central hub. His steel-gray eyes scanned the horizon, where lush fields stretched toward the twin suns. Haven 7 was humanity's hope, a beacon in a galaxy still hostile to its expansion. But Elias's instincts, honed through years of warfare, told him peace was fragile. Reports of strange energy readings at the system's edge had been dismissed as anomalies, yet he felt the weight of unease. Beside him stood Lieutenant Aiden Voss, young and eager, his optimism unshaken by the commander's grave demeanor. "Sir, the colony's festival is starting," Aiden said, gesturing toward the lively streets below. "You should join us. The people need to see their leader." Elias turned to him, his face etched with experience and caution. "They need to feel safe, Lieutenant. And safety isn't guaranteed." Aiden hesitated, sensing the commander's tension. "You think those energy readings mean something?" Elias didn't answer. Instead, he turned back to the horizon, where a faint flicker caught his eye, a shimmer in the sky, like a crack forming in the fabric of reality. Moments later, the crack widened and the serenity shattered. Massive alien vessels, jagged and obsidian, tore through space, their edges glowing with a sinister crimson light. The Krovdar Empire had arrived. The first strike came without warning. A blinding beam of energy descended from the lead ship, obliterating the colony's outer defenses in an instant. Sirens wailed, and the once lively streets descended into chaos. Civilians screamed as debris rained from the sky, and the air filled with the acrid scent of burning metal and flesh. Elias grabbed Aiden by the arm. "Get to the command center. Now!" The two men sprinted through the corridors, their boots echoing against the polished floors. Elias's voice cut through the comm channels. "All defense units mobilize. Evacuate civilians to the shelters." Aiden reached the command console, his fingers flying over the controls as he activated the colony's automated turrets. On the screens, dozens of defense drones took to the skies, firing streams of plasma at the alien ships. For a brief moment, it seemed humanity's ingenuity might hold them off. But the Krovdar were prepared. Smaller, dart-like ships emerged from the larger vessels, weaving through the defenses with deadly precision. They targeted the drones and turrets, dismantling them with cold efficiency. "Commander, we've lost contact with the West Quadrant," a panicked voice crackled over the comms. Elias clenched his fists. "Redirect power to the east perimeter. We hold the line until every civilian is underground." Aiden glanced at him, his face pale. "Commander, there's no way we can stop them. We need reinforcements." "Earth is weeks away," Elias said grimly. "No one's coming." The command center shook as another blast struck the colony. Sparks flew from the consoles and the lights flickered. Through the haze of smoke, Elias's mind raced. He knew Haven 7 was doomed, but he couldn't abandon the people who had entrusted him with their lives. In the chaos, he opened a secure channel to Earth's High Command. His voice was steady, but the urgency was clear. "This is Commander Elias Drake of Haven 7. The Krovdar Empire has attacked. We are outnumbered and outgunned. Earth must respond. The colony won't hold." Aiden looked up from his console, his expression torn between fear and determination. "Commander, what do we do?" "We fight," Elias said simply. The two men led a small group of soldiers to the colony's central square, where terrified civilians huddled in makeshift shelters. Elias raised his voice above the din. "Everyone, to the underground tunnels. Stay together and move quickly." Suddenly, The ground trembled as a Kravdar ground assault vehicle tore through the colony's outer wall. It was a monstrous machine, bristling with weapons and exuding an aura of alien menace. Behind it, alien warriors emerged, their armor sleek and insectoid, their movements unervingly fluid. Aiden raised his plasma rifle, his hands shaking but his aim true. "They're here." The soldiers opened fire, a desperate attempt to hold back the tide. Bolts of plasma lit up the square, striking alien warriors and forcing them to scatter. But the Kravdar's technology was superior. Their energy shields absorbed the attacks, and they retaliated with devastating precision. Elias fought like a man possessed, his years of training guiding his every move. He barked orders, directing his men to focus fire on weak points in the alien shields. For every Kravdar they brought down, 2 more seemed to take its place. "Commander, we're being overrun," Aiden shouted, reloading his weapon. Elias gritted his teeth. "Fall back to the tunnels. Protect the civilians at all costs." The retreat was chaotic. Soldiers covered the civilians as they scrambled into the underground shelters, but the Kravdar pressed their advantage. Explosions rocked the square, sending chunks of debris flying. As the last of the civilians disappeared into the tunnels, Elias turned to Aiden. "Seal the entrance." "That's an order." Aiden hesitated, his eyes wide. "What about you?" Elias gave him a firm look. "I'll buy you time. Now go." Reluctantly, Aiden activated the tunnel's reinforced doors, sealing himself and the civilians inside. Outside, Elias stood alone, his plasma rifle in hand. The square was in ruins, the air thick with smoke and ash. The Kravdar warriors closed in, their dark forms silhouetted against the burning sky. Elias activated his comm one last time. "To anyone who hears this, humanity will not fall. Remember Haven 7. Remember us." As the Kravdar unleashed their final assault, Elias stood his ground, a lone figure against an unstoppable tide. And then silence. Haven 7 was no more. The message from Haven 7 reached Earth like a knife cutting through the heart of the United Terran Federation. The transmission was brief, crackling with static, but its content was undeniable. Humanity's outermost colony had been obliterated, and the Kravdar Empire was advancing. In the sprawling command chamber of the Lunar Defense Headquarters, Admiral Marcus Steele stood at the center of chaos. Holographic displays flickered with data, showing the full scope of the disaster. His chiseled face remained calm, but his voice carried the weight of urgency. "Patch me through to Fleet Command," Marcus ordered. A moment later, the room quieted as his voice was broadcast across Earth's defense networks. "This is Admiral Steele. Haven 7 has fallen. The Kravdar Empire has declared war on humanity. Mobilize all battle groups." This is not a drill. The soldiers and officers in the chamber stiffened, their faces a mix of fear and determination. For decades, the Kravdar had been a distant threat, a specter of destruction lurking at the edges of known space. Now, they were real, and they were here. Marcus turned to his second-in-command, Commodore Ethan Cole, a younger officer with a sharp mind and a reputation for unorthodox tactics. "How long until the fleet is ready?" Ethan hesitated. "Most of our ships are scattered across the colonies. It'll take 3 days to assemble the full force." "We don't have 3 days," Marcus said, his voice cold and decisive. "We strike first. Prepare the core fleet for immediate deployment." Ethan nodded, his jaw tightening. "Understood, sir." Far above Earth, the fleet of 700,000 warships began to stir. The core fleet, comprising the most advanced vessels in humanity's arsenal, moved into formation near Saturn's rings. Massive dreadnoughts bristling with weaponry took position alongside sleek carriers and nimble destroyers. Swarms of fighter squadrons buzzed around the capital ship, Eternal Resolve, a symbol of humanity's determination. On the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, Captain Darius Kane observed the preparations with a grim expression. The veteran officer, clad in a dark uniform adorned with scars from past battles, carried the weight of personal loss. Haven 7 had been more than a colony to him. It had been home. His younger brother had lived there, working as an engineer. Darius clenched his fists as he addressed the squadron. Oblivion Squadron, we've been given the honor of leading the first wave. Our mission is to punch through the Kravdar's front lines and pave the way for the fleet. No mistakes. No mercy. The pilots saluted, their faces hard with resolve. They knew the odds. Against the Kravdar, survival was not guaranteed. In the strategy chamber aboard the Eternal Resolve, Marcus convened his senior officers. A holographic map of the Kravdar-controlled sector floated in the center of the room, glowing ominously. The Kravdar's fleet is concentrated here, Marcus said, pointing to a star system near Haven 7. Their flagship is a key. If we destroy it, we cripple their command structure. Ethan studied the map, his analytical mind already working. They'll have heavy defenses. We'll need a diversion to draw their fire. Marcus nodded. Oblivion Squadron will lead the assault. While the Kravdar focus on them, the main fleet will move in to strike the flagship. Darius spoke up, his voice steady but intense. With respect, sir, Oblivion Squadron isn't disposable. We'll need support if we're going to break through. You'll have it, Marcus said. The Vanguard Wing will provide cover, but your squadron is the tip of the spear. Are you ready for that, Captain Kane? Darius met the Admiral's gaze without flinching. Always. The fleet's departure was a spectacle of both awe and dread. Hundreds of ships powered up their engines, their thrusters illuminating the darkness of space. On Earth, millions watched the live broadcasts, their hope pinned on the men and women heading into battle. On board the Eternal Resolve, Marcus addressed the fleet in a broadcast that would echo across history. Soldiers of Earth, today we face an enemy that seeks to extinguish our light. But humanity has endured too much, sacrificed too greatly, to be silenced now. We do not fight for revenge alone. We fight for survival. We fight for Haven 7, for every life lost to the Kravdar's cruelty. Together, we will show them the strength of humanity. Together, we will prevail. The fleet surged forward, disappearing into the vast expanse of space. As they approached the Kravdar-held system, tension gripped the bridge of the Eternal Resolve. The alien vessels loomed on the sensors, their sheer size and numbers a daunting sight. Marcus studied the readouts, his mind racing through possibilities. They're waiting for us, Ethan said, his tone grim. Let them wait, Marcus replied. We'll hit them harder than they expect. The fleet slowed as it entered the system, forming into tight battle groups. Oblivion Squadron took point, their sleek fighters darting ahead. Darius's voice crackled over the comms. Stay sharp, team. The Kravdar don't give second chances. Within minutes, the Kravdar fleet moved to intercept, their ships moving with a predatory grace. The alien vessels unleashed a storm of energy weapons, the beams slicing through space like crimson lances. The human fleet responded in kind, their advanced railguns and missile systems lighting up the void. The battle had begun. Amid the chaos, Oblivion Squadron weaved through the Kravdar's defenses, their fighters dodging deadly beams and returning fire with precision. Darius led from the front, his years of combat experience guiding his every maneuver. Behind them, the main fleet advanced methodically. Marcus directed the capital ships to focus their fire on the Kravdar's larger vessels, creating openings for the smaller ships to exploit. Ethan monitored the battle from the strategy chamber, his sharp eyes catching patterns in the enemy's movements. Admiral, their flagship is repositioning. They're trying to flank us. Marcus's jaw tightened. Not if we get to them first. Signal Oblivion Squadron to push forward. We need that distraction now. Darius received the order and relayed it to his team. All units, focus fire on the enemy's center. We break through here, or we die trying. The squadron accelerated, their weapons blazing. Kravdar ships swarmed around them, but the human pilots fought with a ferocity born of desperation and vengeance. As the battle raged, Marcus watched the flagship on his display. It was massive, its dark hull bristling with weapons. Destroying it would not be easy, but he had no intention of retreating. "Prepare the final strike," he commanded. The void of space was alive with destruction. Explosions rippled across the battlefield, sending shockwaves that reverberated through the hulls of the ships locked in mortal combat. The Kravdar Empire's fleet, with its jagged obsidian ships and ruthless efficiency, pressed in on the human forces with terrifying precision. But humanity's response was not one of surrender. It was a fight to the death, led by the finest soldiers Earth had to offer. On the bridge of the Eternal Resolve, Marcus Steele stood tall, his eyes fixed on the holographic display that stretched before him. The battle had escalated. Oblivion Squadron was in the thick of it, their sleek fighters darting through enemy fire, their weapons cutting through the Kravdar ranks like a blade through silk. The main fleet, however, was struggling. Despite their overwhelming numbers, the Kravdar's advanced shields and powerful weaponry made them a formidable foe. "We're losing ships," Admiral Ethan Cole, standing beside Marcus, scanned the tactical map, his voice tinged with urgency. Marcus's gaze never wavered. "We'll win this. We have to." He turned to his communications officer. "Captain Kane, report." The voice of Darius Kane crackled through the comms, calm but resolute. "We've broken through the Kravdar's outer defenses, sir, but we're taking heavy fire. Oblivion Squadron's down to half strength. Fall back if you need to, Kane," Marcus said, his tone insistent. "I can't lose you now." Darius's voice was steady, yet there was a hint of something darker beneath the surface. "Negative, Admiral. We're pushing forward. We'll give you the opening you need. Just make sure you finish it." Marcus clenched his jaw. Darius had always been the type to lead from the front, unwilling to retreat. But this time, it might cost him. Across the battlefield, Oblivion Squadron continued its relentless assault, its fighters moving like a deadly swarm, dodging and weaving through the Kravdar fire. Darius led the charge, his fighters zipping past enemy ships, firing in quick bursts. His mind was sharp, calculating every move with the precision of a master tactician. But even he knew this battle was drawing to a close. Whether they won or lost, only a handful of the brave pilots would make it out alive. "This is it, Squadron," Darius called over the comms. "Push to their flagship. This is our one shot." The rest of the squadron followed, their fighters zooming in on the Kravdar flagship, a massive, blackened behemoth that loomed like a vengeful god in the heart of the chaos. Its shields glowed bright with an unholy energy, absorbing every shot that hit it. But Darius knew the truth. No shield was invincible forever. "Targeting their engines," shouted Lieutenant Samuel Pierce, a member of Darius's squadron. "I've got a clean shot." "Take it," Darius barked. A hail of energy blasts erupted from Pierce's ship, the bolt striking the massive flagship's rear engines. Sparks flew from the hit, but the shields held strong. "Damn it," Pierce muttered, his voice thick with frustration. "We need a better angle." Darius's eyes narrowed. "Prepare for a strafing run. We can't wait around for them to recover." Oblivion Squadron broke formation, diving toward the flagship's unshielded flank. Kravdar fighters swarmed in an attempt to intercept, but the human pilots were relentless. One by one, they engaged the alien forces, taking out the smaller craft with precision strikes. Darius's pulse quickened as they closed in. The Kravdar flagship loomed ever larger in their sights. "Steady," Darius muttered, his fingers tightening on the controls. He could almost feel the sweat on his brow, the weight of the mission pressing down on him. He had lost so much already. This had to be the end of it. With a roar of engines, Oblivion Squadron made its final run, firing everything they had. The flagship's shields flickered, faltered, then collapsed as Darius's fighter delivered a precise shot to its weak point. The hull of the ship buckled, releasing a violent explosion that sent shockwaves through the surrounding ships. "Direct hit! The flagship's vulnerable," Darius shouted. "All forces converge on the target." At that moment, Marcus's voice rang through the comms. "Now, Admiral Steele," he commanded. "Now or never." The entire human fleet shifted course, its massive dreadnoughts and smaller vessels focusing all fire on the crippled Kravdar flagship. A barrage of railgun blasts, missile strikes, and energy beams ripped through the alien ship's core, sending it into a death spiral. The flagship buckled under the assault, its once imposing silhouette disintegrating in a cataclysmic explosion that illuminated the battlefield in a blinding flash. But the victory came at a cost. The Kravdar fleet, disoriented by the loss of their flagship, began to scatter, but their remaining forces were still a formidable threat. Oblivion Squadron had suffered severe losses, and several of Marcus's flagship-class ships were heavily damaged. "Status report." Marcus barked. Ethan's voice was strained. "We've got critical damage to the Vanguard wing, sir. They've been hit hard. Several ships are lost, but the Kravdar are retreating." The bridge was silent for a moment. The fleet had won, but the cost had been steep. Marcus allowed himself a brief exhale, but his focus never wavered. The war was far from over. The Kravdar Empire had been dealt a major blow, but they were not yet defeated. The battle for humanity's survival had only just begun. As the debris from the shattered flagship drifted into space, Marcus looked to the horizon, his mind already turning to the next challenge. "Prepare for pursuit," he said. "We're not done yet." Darius Kane sat alone in the cockpit of his damaged fighter, the chaos of the battle fading into a heavy silence. His heart pounded in his chest, the adrenaline still coursing through his veins. He had led his squadron to victory, but he had paid the price. Pierce was gone, and the rest of the squadron was scattered across the battlefield. His hands shook as he gripped the controls, but he could barely feel them. His thoughts were already with the future. "Command, this is Kane," he said into the comms, his voice hoarse. "We've done it. The flagship's down. We need a pickup." "Roger that." Oblivion Leader, came Marcus's voice. "You're coming home." Darius allowed himself a single, grim smile as he set his fighter on course for the recovery zone. He had done his duty. For Haven 7. For humanity. And now, the real war began.